or good evening, however you look at it. This is Francesco Abbruzzino with the live, unedited, and unscripted, basically unscripted show. And it's a news and talk show. Basically what we do is in the beginning hour, we cover the local news, and I go into some a little bit of opining into it. Then I'll do an interview if we have interviews. In the second half, usually I'll look at national issues and how they impact us locally. Like today, I'll be covering the 20% increase in student loans effective for next year, and the potential for a 12-cent per gallon increase that Obama proposed yesterday to take care of our roads that are falling apart. So this is a one-man show. I do the production, the hosting, the research, the website, setting up the interviews, everything. So I'm going in a lot of different directions. If I look distracted, it's because I'm doing a few things around here as the show is progressing. Sponsors, because I'm looking at doing that syndication. They're pushing me for sponsorships or to go out and try to get them. So check out my page if you're on the Francesco Abbruzzino show.com right now watching. Then you are on the page. Just check out the advertisement section and check out the store. We have some good products in there. Longevity, I'm a rep for that, and some other stuff. So that takes care of all that stuff. Let's go ahead and get you guys to a split screen, and we'll start covering the news. First is about these two attorneys that were disbarred. One was up in Sarasota, one was down here in Venice. I never heard of the guy that was down here in Venice. However, I know on the Venice Scoop, somebody came on and said, yeah, good, he basically screwed me out of a lot of money. The story is that these two attorneys are based here in Sarasota County, and they're disciplined by the bar. The Florida Supreme Court granted emergency suspension of Paul Prazinski, who was arrested in June in charges of scheming to defraud, grand theft, and practicing law on a suspended license. He is accused of taking more than $100,000 from 6 clients, which he failed to disperse to the involved lenders or refund. And the other case, it's a Joseph DeSantis of Venice, was publicly reprimanded after receiving thousands of dollars from 3 cases in which he failed to provide adequate representation. DeSantis did file a conditional guilty plea in the case. He did not participate in the discovery phase of the dissolution of the marriage case, in which he was paid $2,500. Okay, so that's some attorney stuff there. You always got to be careful whoever you go with, be it a mechanic to the attorney. Look into the research, though. Make sure. I can tell you there's a lot of attorneys around here. I would not give the time of day. Just because they got that law degree doesn't mean they know everything and they're the best person for your cases. Same with doctors. I'm in the medical industry, Telephonics Medical Consulting. I know a lot of doctors that are in the business to make money, and not particularly, they don't show a lot of particular concern for a person's well-being. It's all about that dollar. This next issue we're going into is on the Sarasota County Ways Agency's needs for more space. Guardian ad litem workers have confidential conversations in an office full of people. I think that's the Jesse's way of saying, hey, goofballs, you don't have confidential conversations in a room full of people that can talk. Voting equipment is crammed in a storage center, making repairs tricky. Oh, I guess that's what they're saying, that they can't have conversations, confidential ones, because there's no room to go to. They're in a room that's full. Voting equipment is crammed into a storage center. I don't know where else voting equipment would go, but in a storage center, making repairs tricky. Sheriff's office records are stored in a hurricane-vulnerable building. Well, that they need to fix. During the economic downturn, local government officials made do with the increasing tight quarters that were less than ideal. What they're doing here, folks, is they're building up for the fact that we all got the communication yesterday where we're going to get more tax revenues than expected. And with that increase in tax revenues, they don't plan on giving any of it back. And now they're trying to build a case. Basically, I don't know who put this out or who contacted the press, but you can see they're starting to build a case with the news yesterday and today on why they should keep it and not hand anything back. Nora Patterson, she's a commissioner for the county. She said, we've never had this many requests before. All of a sudden, they're coming out of everywhere. The issue emerged as a common theme over the last week is the commission considered new capital projects for their budgets. The commissioners must balance the expansion request with a looming budget shortfall in 2017, and they have something like 234 capital projects scheduled over the next 5 years. This is where they come in. They give the line that given those demands, county officials said they do not plan on rolling back the property tax rates to prevent residents from paying more as land values go up. So they're slowly but surely building a case for, hey, we want this money. Just like all politicians, they want as much money as they can. They don't want to give any back. Amazing how they operate, and they tend to get away with it. I don't know why. I don't know why people allow them to get away with this. The city's big building along the bay. It's hosted a remarkable roster of talents this season, and a national live entertainment magazine has again noticed, and that's what we're talking about here, folks, is the Van Wezel Performing Arts Hall has been ranked in the nation's #1 performing arts hall in the 2,000 seat category for this year's mid-season publication of Venues Today. It's the third time they've made it in there and ranked on that chart. Soon, July 17th, they're having Sam Wolf, the Bradenton resident that was on American Idol. He's going to be singing there. They're also preparing for 2014-15 tickets for Peter Frampton, Loyal Lovett, Bill Maher, Susan Boyle, Celtic Thunder, Salute to Vienna, Time Jumper. Some great acts are coming there, so it looks like good things happening over there at the Van Wezel in Sarasota. The Palm Hotel, I was watching this, and we'll play the video. I think it was that lady Linda Carson with WWSB. She goes around, checks out all the weekend stuff, basically talking about this hotel. It's the original real estate boom started back in the 20s on Palm Avenue. The trend started to set up in Sarasota, and basically they built this hotel there, and it was a real success until people started filtering their way over to the beaches. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this video. There's probably a commercial.
The dedication of Patriot Plaza, a place where freedom is front and center. Saturday night at 7 on ABC 7. Brought to you without commercial interruption by the Patterson Foundation, which is fully underwritten the amphitheater at Sarasota National Cemetery.
As we approach our country's birthday and all of the 4th of July celebrations, this is a good time to look back at our own local history.
ABC 7's Linda Carson takes us on a journey back into Sarasota's past. Linda.
Well, Haley, Sarasota County historians tell us Sarasota's original real estate boom started in the 1920s on Palm Avenue. And a trend was started there that set Sarasota on the path to become the upscale cultural mecca for tourists that it is today. Sarasota was still searching for its identity and struggling to become the vacation destination in Florida when the Chicago industrialist Andrew McCash came along.
McCash came to Sarasota and he saw the potential. And so he got together with the city and he said, if you give me free water, free electricity, and no taxes for 10 years, I'll build you world-class accommodations.
Plus, put up some upscale apartments. And that's what he did.
The apartments here were started at the end of 1922. They went up in 60 days, and they were known as the 60-day wonder, 24-hour around-the-clock work.
The Miramar complex stretched down South Palm Avenue from Main Street to Ringling Boulevard. At the north end was the second hotel, the DeMarchi, and behind that, a cigar factory.
It was opened by the Roth brothers about 1925, and they rolled cigars here and sold them throughout the state.
From the DeMarchi Hotel, the upscale Miramar apartments stretched south on either side of the Grand Miramar Hotel. At the south end of the Miramar complex was an auditorium.
Upstairs, they had a full gambling house, and it was run by an outfit out of Chicago. And Mayor A.B. Edwards, who was the city's first mayor, said they wouldn't let locals in, but they would let snowbirds in, and they paid off with silver dollars.
And bootlegging kept the whiskey flowing.
And across the street from the hotel, they built a band shell so that the guests from the hotel would have free entertainment, and also the citizens of the community could come down and watch free entertainment.
When Miramar was first built, it was right on the Gulf. The water came right up to where Gulf Street Avenue is today. But then along came US 41 and pushed the water line way, way back. The Miramar drew the rich and the famous. Lowell Thomas stayed there in the 20s and Greta Garbo in the 40s.
It was the starting point for Sarasota to turn into a destination for wealthy snowbirds.
But the Miramar went into decline in the 50s when the beach hotels lured the tourists away and it was torn down in 1982. Only the apartments and the Hotel de Marquis and the shell of the cigar factory remain. If you get a chance, ride down Palm Avenue.
So there it is. That it sounds like an hotel. I gotta do something real quick. I accidentally exited out of everything. Hopefully, I'm still broadcasting. Modern day technology, folks. So hold on one second. And that's an excellent hotel. I saw it this morning with Lynn Carlson, and I was watching it, and I thought, hey, let's share this because you get to see this history here in Sarasota, and a lot of times you don't realize that we have some of this valuable history within our community. I never really knew about that Palm Hotel until I saw that art that saw it this morning, what was being communicated, and good, I'm still live with you guys. All right. Whew, that was a close one, folks. I didn't know if I totally dropped the connection or not. So let's get back to the show, and sorry about that. The next one is the Saudi family. They released more information, the FBI did, which shows that there's even more connections between that Saudi family that suddenly disappeared just days before the 9/11 attack. The FBI released more documents about this family, and again, they're believed to have those ties. They lived in that Prestentia neighborhood and disappeared just weeks prior to the attack. 11 new pages include details about the Tunisian man who disposed of items considered linked to 9/11 behind the Bradenton storage facility. Among the items and manuals and tourism were documents from the Venice airport and all that stuff. So, interesting little read there, and I'm sure they'll have a report on it today. And this is one I wanted to put on here because we reported that VA was considering Manatee, two different plots in Manatee County to build this new old folks home. It looks like they've moved Manatee down to the bottom of the list right now, and they won't get it during this cycle. The group is favoring sites like St. Lucie, Marion, or Collier counties. They said, hey, look, don't give up, though. We're going to continue building these nursing homes, and in the future, your spot may be one that is chosen for a future nursing home. I guess they're putting up a few here in Florida. This is on a special needs. It came out today. It's a friendly catch. Gives those in special needs a chance to get out there, enjoy life, enjoy the water. A special day out there. Adults and children with disabilities enjoyed it. They just got out, went fishing, and this happened just today. The group Suncoast Charities for Children hosted the friendliest catch outing, and there were dozens of adults and children, as I said, with special needs. Captains and law enforcement officials volunteered their time to take the groups out into Sarasota Bay so that they could do some catch and release fishing in this tournament. So good things happening out there. Again, our officers stepping up to try to give back to the community and help out with some of these individuals. Northport had this missing boy, and I don't know if he's been found. I got this morning. That's his picture. And basically, she asked me to circulate it out. His name's Cody. He's 17. He's been missing for 2 weeks, and he's from Venice. A little strange that it's taken 2 weeks to send it out. I guess because he's 17, but still, he's not 18. So I don't know why they took 2 weeks. I'm thinking the kid left, and I don't know the full story behind it, but I'm sure his parents are upset. So if you have seen Cody, by all means, contact the sheriff's office or VPD, and they'll tell you who to contact. So I shared that on all the scoop pages earlier this morning once I got it. This is something that you haven't seen in the local papers, and I'm not sure why. I picked it up from Wink yesterday. It was an individual that the baby had some trauma to the head, and this little 11-month-old was killed by this guy. I put it on my pages yesterday, and still nothing from the local news. And it happened. It's a Bradenton guy, but it happened in Northport, and his name's Carter Bryant. He's facing manslaughter charges now for this 11-month-old death. He admitted rocking the child too hard for about 15 minutes straight, folks. So let's go. 15 minutes straight. Are you kidding me? All right, so let's listen to this story. We gotta love this commercial, isn't it? All right, so we gotta love sex. But the mother said, you know what's strange? The mother said, well, the baby seemed to right. She didn't realize. Well, I went to the store for just a few seconds, and the baby even kissed this guy goodbye.
Our top story at 4, brand new information this afternoon in the death of a baby shaken so violently, doctors couldn't save him. Right now, Carter Bryant faces manslaughter charges in connection with that baby's death.
Tonight, the father of the child is speaking with Wink News. Wink News anchor Lois Tomei joins us live at 4 with his reaction. Lois.
Well, the mother's boyfriend has been accused and arrested for this crime. We just got our hands on this probable cause affidavit from the courts. And in it, the accused, Carter Bryant, admits to rocking the child too hard for about 15 minutes straight. The family is now left with many questions about why their baby had to die. A father in shock.
It's tragic, man. It's tragic.
Now trying to understand how someone could take the life of his baby, 11-month-old Joshin.
It didn't have to be this way, man. I don't know what rage would cause a person to just do something and look at somebody so innocent, so handsome, and call calm to them.
Going through pictures, he stands in front of the crime scene, this Northport home where the baby lived with his mother. Investigators say 35-year-old Carter Bryant of Bradenton was visiting the mother late Friday night. She left to run an errand, and that's when Bryant allegedly shook the baby. She told investigators the baby wasn't breathing when she returned home. She took him to the hospital, but doctors couldn't save him. Now his father, who lives in Miami, can do nothing but remember Joshin's infectious smile.
If you're having a bad day, you just look at him, man.
Looking at the baby, he called a fighter, born premature.
Even though he was a baby, you just know the only thing he complained about was you're getting fed and his pamper changed. That's it. That's it.
Carter Bryant is facing manslaughter and aggravated child abuse charges in the baby's death.
So there you have it, and that's just a tragic situation. What happened there? Whoops, sorry. I am screwing up on every technical aspect today. It's a tragic situation. What happened there? I don't know why the local media is not covering it. I mean, they're covering the Cracker Barrel Joe Dude and everything else out there. How come we're not seeing anything on this? And that was the concept behind coming up with this this idea here. Well, there were a few things. One was I noticed that major media, they didn't have enough time to get all the stories out. They got 15 minutes or whatever on the TV. Then I noticed that the scoop pages, they're pretty effective in getting word out, but the problem is there's so much information, and you often miss stories. Or a lot of times you can't read it because the Herald has you blocked and you're not doing a monthly subscription, or the Gond, or whatever newspaper it may be. So I thought, let's put something out there, and then I wanted to get some communications on how national news is impacting us. And a lot of times I'll take national news that's not really on major media and how it impacts us. Like, I don't know if anybody heard about the 12-cent per gallon increase in the taxes or the increase in the student loans, which is going to directly impact us here within our own community. Hence why I decided to do this, and hopefully everybody's enjoying it. So let's go back to the next story. And this one is on dolphin. It's on the fish strains, and this has always been an ongoing issue. I can't remember the name of the dolphin that died last year. It might be in this article. I can't remember if it is. And basically, marine experts are reminding people to look out for wildlife on the 4th of July weekend. You guys, if you're new to this area, if you're new to Venice, that area will be packed. North Jetty, people get there at 8 in the morning. They fill up all the tables, and they stay there until after the fireworks. The boats will be everywhere there. Snake Island will be hopping, and it will just be crazy out there. Obviously, be safe out there. Don't drink and drive your boat, all that good stuff. Watch out for the marine life. Marine experts are reminding people to look out for these wildlife because they're out there. And the reminder comes after the death earlier this month of one of the oldest dolphins in Sarasota Bay. This dolphin was 58 years old, Squiggy. And he was recovered by Florida Fish and Wildlife back on June 7th. I never even saw this story. I didn't even realize this. The examination revealed that she was emaciated, and she had 3 large fishing hooks on her stomach. Come on, folks. 3 large fishing hooks on her stomach, and 1 in her mouth. It was attached to 11 feet of heavy monofilament line. She's known for spending a lot of her time down here in the Venice area, and again, with a lot of the boat traffic. And she was first identified back in the 80s. She was documented 267 times. So again, tragic. If you're out there fishing, be careful. You don't want to hook a dolphin. If you're out there riding the boat, jet ski, be careful. And be safe this weekend, by all means. How about this excellent Venice student? This is a great story. I've seen this kid, I think, before, too. He's basically homeless. But he didn't tell anybody about it. He continued to excel in school. This was put out by the Herald. Let me see if I can move this thing over here. And he's honored for his excellence in the face of homelessness. And basically what it says is this shy 16-year-old John Unsworth attracts a lot of attention. At Venice High School marching band banquet, girls pleaded to be photographed with him.
Miss, do you want to go on a virtual date with Josh Duhamel?
Oh, of course. I forgot to put my sunblock.
All right. Sorry about that. Girls wanted to dance with him, take pictures with him, but many of John's classmates were unaware of the simple fact that this rising senior's mischievous grin masked a year of hardship. John was homeless for about 11 months, sleeping in his mother's Ford Explorer when the family did not have enough money to stay in hotels. Yet he continued to go to school. He continued to keep that smile on his face, and he continued to just get some excellent grades in school. But even, they said even as he dealt with this uncertainty, didn't know where he would sleep every night, he maintained a high GPA and did not miss one band practice. His dedication to education was recognized this spring at the Sarasota County District's Most Improved Student Award Luncheon. Then you have several other Venice High honorees: Jasmine Bonigiovanni, Elisa Bunton, Amanda Deming, Chase Thomas, and the list just goes on and on. There are a ton of them on there. So that was a great story. Again, kudos to this kid for sticking with it, not letting his situation, his home life, get him down. Hopefully it didn't. Hopefully they're in a house now and everything's going good for them. So, excellent story there. And that was out by Shelby Webb with the Herald. So, there we go. All right. Minnesota, they might lose their post office, folks. It's on the chopping block. So, if you're out there in Minnesota, beware. Earlier this year, the Minnesota Postal Processing Center was saved from being closed down. Not the same facility is now the same facility is on the chopping block again. This is a mail sorting center, and it's located over on Televas, currently employing about 300 people. A spokesman for Vern Buchanan, who worked to keep the facility open, told the Herald that he will continue to push to keep it from being closed down. So best of luck there. That's 300 jobs over Monson. That could be tragic there. All right. On crime, we got some stabbing. And this was... This is, again, this involved a Sarasota guy. I forget which paper this was on. I think it was out of Tampa. Detectives arrested a man who they said stabbed a 13-year-old boy in Bradenton. Ronnie Shabzatman, 18, was arrested on Monday, and he lives here in Sarasota. Deputies said the 13-year-old boy had originally told them a group of older teenagers confronted him and a friend at the Pride Park basketball courts. The boy said one of the older teenagers had pulled out a knife and stabbed him, then robbed him of his money. Deputies say the boy's story later changed, and the stabbing actually happened at Shaman's girlfriend's house. Something about this guy that was arrested, this 18-year-old, because he was beating up his girlfriend, and there was some fighting. He resisted arrest, so there's a whole story in on that. And there he is. Another outstanding Sarasota resident. Look at him. His mother is probably pretty damn proud right now. That dollar store robbery, which we mentioned the other day, they found the guy. Basically, it was a car stop. County sheriff said they arrested him, and he was basically driving down the road. The suspect walked. This is what happened. He walked into the store, tried demanding some money out of the register, and implied he had a gun. The clerk told him to get out of the store, and the suspect said, okay, and he left. Late last night, deputies conducted a traffic stop on a green Hyundai and arrested Mario Smith. So there you go. He's denying trying to rob the store, though. He says it was a big miscommunication. This is a great story on fingerprints and how they were used to bust this individual. This is a Venice guy. Amazingly arrested 26 times, and he's still out. Still able to run the streets. What the hell? Sarasota County Sheriff's arrested this Venice guy this morning. He was for burglarizing several vehicles late at night from June 17th to the 25th. 2 victims reported items stolen from their vehicles parked over on Flamingo and Hourglass. A third victim reported that someone tried to break into the truck on Argyle Road, and a witness scared him away. Fingerprints recovered from the crime scene matched this of Michael Morris, who's been arrested 26 times. He was 25 times, I'm sorry. This was his 25th. Morris is charged with 2 counts of burglary, 1 count of attempted burglary, 1 count of fraudulent use of credit cards, and 3 counts of criminal use of personal ID. There's an outstanding Venice resident. What are these people thinking? It's crazy. All right. And that's basically it on that regard. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to go over to my interview. Usually, when I do that local news, it depends if there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Sometimes it'll take an hour, sometimes 30 minutes. Sometimes there's issues that I can dissect more into where there really weren't today to dissect into. So we're going to pop over to this interview that I conducted, and it was with a guy, he's an author, and he basically put out a communication on how to handle when you're hold on one second. How to handle when your loved ones die, when your friends are possibly near death, when your friend's child might be dying. How to handle that situation. The individual has basically been around, he said, about 1,500 of these situations. So he's pretty experienced at dealing with them. He used to be work at the funeral home and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get that interview queued up. Hey everybody, this is Francesco Abbruzzino, and we have a great interview today. Sitting with me on the screen is Stephen Garrett, and he is the author of When Death Speaks. It's a new and living approach to death and dying. How are you doing out there today, Stephen?
I'm doing great, Frank. It's nice to be on your show, and I hope we've got some interesting stuff for your listeners.
And I'm sure you will. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your book, When Death Speaks?
Certainly. I'll just paint a quick picture for you, Frank. If I were sitting here with a black hoodie on, and you couldn't see my face, and I had a switchblade, would you be likely to interview me? And the answer is likely no. Well, that's the way we've dressed death up to be here in North America, as the Grim Reaper. What my book is all about is how do we demystify death, how do we welcome it back to life, and how do we change our relationship with death in a way that works well for the one who's dying and also inspires those of us who survive.
Okay. And to me, that's would be the hardest thing. I've had some people that I know, my dad died, but he was in Italy, and I wasn't really prepared for that. My stepfather of 30 years passed away, and I sort of distanced myself from that because I didn't know how to deal with it, and I don't think I wanted to deal with it. And we have a similar situation now with my mother-in-law, who's had about, 8 strokes in the last year. And so it's how do you deal with that stuff? So I'm sort of glad we're having this interview.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. And you're right. Most of us have forgotten how to be with death in a way that supports the one who's passing and also allows us to be real and honest and approach them in a loving, compassionate way. It's a hard thing to do, Frank, and blessings to you and your family facing your grandmother's passing.
Yeah, so what are some suggestions? What's some takeaways that anybody that reads your book will come away with, and how will it help them in dealing with this?
Well, most importantly, Frank, the topic of death is seldom spoken about amongst family members. It's always left till the very last moment usually in the hallways of a hospital with a doctor or a nurse. My personal view is that we should have these conversations way earlier, and they should be frank and open and honest and loving. And we should be talking to the one who's dying about what their needs are for their care, how they want to be taken care of, what they want to leave behind, memories that they have. It should all be a very open, loving dialogue as opposed to a taboo topic.
But how do you broach something like that? I mean, it's hard to sit down and say, hey, look, face the facts, you're going to be dying soon. We need to get all of your everything in order.
Yep, I know. And with your, like, for example, it's your grandmother, correct?
My mother-in-law. Your
mother-in-law, I'm sorry. Your mother-in-law's had 8 strokes in the last year. That's a sign that something's coming, that the heart's not working well. To broach that topic, I would simply say, you know, gosh, family, we've noticed that mother-in-law's had 8 strokes over the last while. I think we should get down to talking about what care she'd like towards the end of her life. Has she got her will in order? What memories would she like to leave behind? Who would she like to say goodbye to? And how would she like to have her life celebrated when she does pass? Now, I know those all sound like very direct and bold questions, and frank they are, but that's the only way to get into the topic, with a little bit of fearlessness and a lot of courage.
So let me ask this, how does someone overcome the, I guess the fear or the concern of having to talk, like my wife, having to talk to her mother directly about this issue? I'm sure it's not a subject my wife wants to touch on.
No, I know it's not.
So how do you overcome that?
Well, you know, a lot of great teachers and leaders in the spiritual field say, face the fear and say it anyways. It's a bit like that, Frank. There's no way to get practice at it aside from spending some time on the floor, so to speak. And, you know, I didn't want to have that conversation with my dad back in 2004. You know, he was lying in a hospital bed. He's all plugged into all kinds of crazy machines that are keeping him alive. And I didn't really want to have the conversation with him, but I knew that we had to. And so I just opened my mouth and said, Dad, it doesn't look very good for you right now. What do you think we should do? And just beginning the conversation that way and that informally gave us a chance to talk about what he wanted and what he didn't want. And it actually opened into a very beautiful chat that my dad and I had. That was the last chat we had in our lives together, because as soon as he pulled the plug, he died. So it's just a matter of taking a deep breath, Frank, and kind of sucking it up and looking your loved one in the eye and having that frank chat, and just getting the first few words out is really all it takes. Once the words are out there, the conversation will start to unfold.
Okay, well, let's look at a different scenario now. That's where you got your mother and daughter, or your son-in-law and mother-in-law. How about if you have a friend that's got a child that's possibly going to be dying with cancer or something? How do you broach them? Because in some ways I think that might be difficult than approaching it with your mother.
It most certainly is, Frank. I spent some time as a cremationist for a large funeral home here in Vancouver, and was confronted with that situation surprisingly regularly, where parents were coming in with request to cremate a 6-month-old child, a 6-year-old child, a 12-year-old child. Those conversations are very difficult to have, because in our structure, in our culture, the family, the parents always seem to want to predecease their child. So when the child goes early, it's a darn challenge, because it's not only the child's death, it's the death of the dream of the child going to grade 1. It's the death of the dream of the child going to high school. It's the death of the dream of the child getting married and the parents becoming grandparents. So yeah, it is a difficult one, and it requires the same determination. It requires the same compassion and the same directness, and it's hard. I mean, I've had to have that chat with a family whose child is dying of cancer, and the child's 6 years old.
Wow.
And so all I said to them was, you know what, gang, this is going to be a really hard conversation. Your child is 6 and dying of cancer. We've got to talk about it. We've got to have some conversation around it in order that your child's death be meaningful to the child and to the family.
Now, did your book... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I would then ask, after saying that, Frank, I would say, can I have your permission to carry on with the conversation? So I enroll him in saying yes to the conversation.
Yeah.
And The book does talk about that.
That was going to be my question. Does the book guide them through it and give them a basic understanding of the approach they need to go into it with?
Yep. Chapter 6 in the book, Frank, is called The Survivor's Manual. It's all about how to talk about death and dying with your loved one and with your family. It gives questions, answers, ways to speak, ways to listen, a whole framework of communication to have these challenging yet really important conversations.
Well, here's another question for you. You said before they're close to death, you want to have that conversation. A lot of people, unlike my mother-in-law who's had the 8 strokes, you're not always aware that there's a end-of-life situation coming up. So how do you tell? How can you tell that someone's near that phase and then you may want to have that conversation? Or do you just say, hey, you're 50, let's have the conversation even though you might die at 80?
Yep. Well, I just had that very conversation with my 2 boys, Oliver and Benjamin. They're 22 and 20, and I'm only 65. I got a lot of years left, Frank. To prepare, I didn't want my 2 sons to have to make the difficult decision I had to make for my dad. Do we unplug him or do we leave him plugged in? I didn't want my boys to feel that anguish and that difficult challenge of making the right decision. So I sat my boys down, and I've got in my house what I call my death binder, which includes my will, which includes my life insurance policies. It also includes my wishes for health care, should I need it, and also who's going to talk for me if I cannot speak for myself. And I just went over it with my boys. I said, look, guys, I was born, I'm going to die. Here's how I'd like to go out. Here's what I want you to do for me. Here's what I want in the hospital and don't want in the hospital. And here's where you're going to take my ashes, and I've got a life insurance policy to pay for it all. So there you go.
Now, does your book walk you through that process of setting it all up? Because I know I have stuff in case I die, but it's all thrown in a mess. And my philosophy is go look in this one direction and you'll find it. But you're saying do a binder, more organized.
Yep, I've got in the book, the last few chapters, it's all about doing all the pre-planning that you need to do so that you can die not leaving a mess behind for your family and for your loved ones. So there's a very ordered way to do it, and it sounds a bit legal and a bit technical, but it's darn important, Frank, because when you get into the medical system, if that work isn't done well and articulated clearly, the hospital system will do what they do, which is keep you alive at all costs.
Right. Let me ask you on this next one is on holidays. You always hear people when it's Christmas and it's like, oh God, first Christmas without my mom. Thanksgiving, you would think, maybe some ways Easter, but how do you recommend dealing with that? And does your book cover issues such as that?
Yes, it does, and how you deal with it is the same as you would deal with the death itself, Frank. You just sit down, it's December the 1st, Christmas is coming, that mom's not going to be there, and you and the family members talk about it. Do you want to set a plate at the table to represent mom? Do you want to get her a gift? Do you want to have a candle lit for her? Would you have a glass of amazing Italian red wine out there for her? What sort of things would you like to have in place of mom so you can remember her and make space for her at the table as you celebrate your first Christmas without her?
Now, do a lot of people do that? Because I would think, and I haven't been really in this situation. I have, but I haven't. I don't know if Christmas would come up if I'd want to set that table, and I wouldn't mind remembering the person. Just, I don't know if I could deal with setting up the table and doing all that. And I was wondering if a lot of people do that, or is that more therapeutic?
It is therapeutic, and some folks do it. They put the picture of their loved one up on the mantelpiece or at the table setting at the table. Some families don't because it's just too much of a reminder and it's too early. They may do it the second year or the third year. It's very personal, Frank. It's very intimate, and it's primarily what the family comes up with as a plan to be prepared for their first Christmas or their first Thanksgiving without mom or dad.
Okay. Now, what if they need to go into an old age house or hospice or some process or some solution because they're getting ready to pass away, but they want to stay at the house. They want to die in the house that they've lived in for 80 years. They want their family around them. Do you fight them on that issue and say, look, you're going to get better care if we take you here? Or do you say, okay, look, maybe you're right. Let's do this. Let's make you happy?
What I encourage people to do is to do their best to meet the wishes of their loved one who's passing. Hospice care is very mobile now. Hospice nurses are abundant. It is possible, if the care needs aren't too extreme, to have your loved one die in the home, as is their wish. 83% of us want to die at home, and only 20% of us do, primarily because we get frightened about the medical care and the demands that the loved one's going to place on us. It can be created for them. It can happen at home for sure.
That can be stressful, though. Let's say it's your kids and they're stuck at the house taking care of you. It seems like, I know with my situation with my mother-in-law, my wife is trying to do everything right now, get her all of her medical appointments. We just had an in-home nurse come by, and I know it's a bit stressful for her, and I can't imagine, having to deal with someone that's stuck in the bed and dying.
Yep, it can be very stressful, and that's all part of the conversation that the family would have to have, Frank, because what often happens is the family caregivers fatigue and stress out, and aren't really there emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or physically for their loved one because they're overtaxed. So that's a conversation that you have to have, and have it with the doctors and the nurses so everybody's on the same page and clear on the healthcare demands that their loved one's going to place on them. If it's at all possible, absolutely do it at home. But if the care demands are too high, hospice is a great place to take a loved one. The care there is always fantastic and loving and compassionate.
Okay. Now, what is that? Will they get anything else besides the areas I touched on with you out of the book? And why should they rush out today and get it? What's the major benefit they'll get overall from the book? I'm assuming it's how to deal with the dying of your loved ones.
Yeah, it is all about that. And also, Frank, it's about recognizing that though the loved one has passed, we're still on the right side of the green grass. We're still living and breathing and vital and alive. Oftentimes in life, because we don't do death well, we take life for granted.
Right.
And what I've discovered over the years I've been dealing with death and dying, and I've seen over 1,500 of them,
wow.
Is that my life now is more passionate, more full, and more rich, because I don't know whether I've got it tomorrow, Frank. And I don't mean to be melodramatic, but I just don't know when I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So just in case it's tomorrow, I'm going to live my ass off today.
It's strange I'm talking to you today because last night I was watching Seinfeld, and it was an episode where George went to a funeral, and he was sitting there talking to the priest, and the father's like, hey, this is like my 5th one this week. And I seriously was thinking, man, that would be so difficult to deal with this 5 of these a week. How do you deal with all these individuals, their families, how upset? And you said you were a mortician or worked at a funeral home or something like that?
That's correct.
I don't know if I could handle that press or that stress from dealing with these families. It's got to be pretty emotional.
It is, Frank, and it's not for everybody. It's not everybody's calling. It just happened to be mine. It's my way of serving people and helping out a little bit. But how I handle it is each and every person that I've dealt with and worked with has always taught me something about life. I had an 86-year-old woman who shared with me hours before she passed on one of her deep life regrets, which was she had held a little bit of love back from her husband of 48 years, and she wished she hadn't have done that. But that's a life regret for her, and there's nothing she can do. She died 3 hours later after confessing that to me. What I did with that, though, Frank, was I turned it into a life lesson. And I took a look at my own life and noticed where I was holding my love back just a little from my loved ones. And in memory of this beautiful 86-year-old woman who passed on, I committed to loving my family even more deeply. So that's how I'm able to work with that, what some people call negative energy, and turn it into a positive for me and my family members and my friends.
That's great. If you can take something like that and in some ways change the way you're living, because now you're out there saying, hey, you know what, let me reflect on that. Maybe I'm not showing as much love towards my kids or my spouse, and maybe I need to change ways. I still got 20 years and I can make it better. I don't want to die with that regret. And that's great it happened to you.
Yep, and that's the benefit and the beauty of the death. Yeah, death can be sad, it can be very sorrowful, it can be quite grim, but there's another side of the coin, which is those life lessons which we can take that will inspire us and our family members to live even more fully, given that we're still on this side of the green grass. So it's having that balance, Frank, that's so important.
Interesting. Okay, now, where I do have your website on here, and I believe, I was looking through it the other day, and I believe you can get to your book. I forget the name of the company. So why don't you tell everybody about your website name, if they want to email you, if they want to buy ebook, paper book, where they should go.
Absolutely. My website, Frank, is embraceyourdeath.com. And you're correct, you can buy my book on that website. You can also go to amazon.com or .ca and pick up the book there. It's called When Death Speaks, Listen, Learn, and Love. And my email address, which I'm glad to give to your listeners and your viewers, is Stephen, STEPHEN, at embraceyourdeath.com. And I'd be very happy to send any of your listeners or your viewers out a copy of my book if they send me off a little hit on my email.
And you know what? One last thing I wanted to hit on, I forgot to, is the training. What kind of training do you do? It's a training program. Do you want to touch on that? Or
certainly, I've decided that we need to bring death back to life. And in order to do that, we need some folks who are skilled and trained at end-of-life guiding. So I've created a program, Frank, called End of Life Guides, which prepares people to help families and individuals go through the challenging times of death and dying. And it's a program that's 12 modules long. It's self-paced, and it's, from all reports I've had back from my students, it's a fantastic program that really helps them not only face death, but helps them live their life in a more inspired way.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear about that program, because I can see a lot of people needing it. That's unfortunately that's a tough situation when you got someone's facing their death and you're the son or daughter and you got to go through it with them.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, it was great talking to you. Any parting words?
Frank, thank you so much for having me on. And When Death Speaks is really all about living life with passion by using death as an inspirational teacher. So thank you, sir, for having me on your show. I appreciate it very, very much. And blessings to all your listeners, and we hope to hear from you again sometime soon.
All right, thank you. There you go, folks. That was the interview with Stephen Garrett. He's been there for about 1,500 deaths. He knows what he's talking about. He's been in these different situations, and he knows how to deal with them. So if you're wondering how to deal with them, like he said, shoot him an email, and he'll set you up with a book. He also has that training seminar where you can learn how to better cope with it. I know for me, it will be very difficult, and I think offline, prior to the interview, I told him when my dad died, I was actually on a cruise, and I wasn't aware that he was sick, and I got the news that he died, and it was bad. He had some kind of cancer, and that was in Italy. When my stepdad of like 20, 30 years, when he died, I sort of kept my distance because I'm not good at that stuff. And, you know, I have to get better, obviously. I want to be there, and I want to help my wife and kids. Hopefully I'll die before them, but just in case they don't. And so something good to try to learn to cope with this stuff. All right, and now we go into my national opining, which I like doing. And let's first start with this gas tax, folks. It's a concern. Look, our roadways, our bridges, they're all falling apart. They're crumbling. They're not in great shape at all. Even though we funneled a ton of money over to Obama about 3 years ago, that money's all gone. Those projects, basically, they took that money on old projects, not really any new road projects. Now Obama's back out there, and he's saying, look, we got to do something. The roads are falling apart. We need to come up with the money to handle this situation because it's getting dire. So what does he propose? He proposes this new legislation that he wants to put out there, and he's pressing Congress to find a solution to this looming highway issue, arguing that it's not socialism. We just want to build highways, we want to build bridges in countries. But what a lot of people wonder is, will that money really go there, or is it just another form of cronyism where you're just going to give it off to your guys, your big corporate America, to have the money? Now, the other issue is 12 cents a gallon, folks. Right now, gas is some of the highest dollar amounts it's been in since 2008. What happens when gas goes up? Food prices go up. Everything basically goes up. You know, can we afford 12 cents a gallon? I remember having a conversation with my mom a couple weeks ago, and she's like, you know what? This gas station she lives in Northport, and she was telling me about a gas station that's like 2 cents cheaper or something like that. And I said, Mom, it's 2 cents on a gallon. What's the big deal? She's like, honey, when you're as old as I am and you're on a fixed income, it's a huge deal. And a lot of people are like that, unfortunately, and I should be thinking more like that. It is a huge deal. And just think, 12 cents a gallon, folks. 12 cents a gallon. That's going to add up, and it's going to have a significant impact on the cost of food and anything else that takes gas to deliver it, products at your local retail store, all that stuff. But basically, you got this highway trust fund, and it's a transportation infrastructure fund. It's basically financed by the gasoline taxes, and it's heading towards insolvency. And they need to do something. They need to collect more money, and they have to do it right away. Obama's making it seem like it's dire. And what they're proposing is a 4-year, $302 billion solution to this highway crisis. He says, which would end the trust fund's dependency on the gas tax and replenish it through tax reforms. It was a plan Obama pushed on Tuesday, I think, at his meeting. But, you know, he did the same old politicking. He's pushing that, and he's blaming the Republicans. I don't know why. It's all the Republicans' fault. I find it hard to believe that not one Democrat is responsible for any of this. And I hate how they play that partisan politics. It drives me crazy. Republicans and Democrats are in Congress, and they're divided on this issue. You know, the other thing, too, is a lot of times this is essentially a tax increase, folks. It's a tax increase upon us. 12 cents a gallon. It's a tax increase because we all drive. Granted, you know, somebody once asked, well, if they're using the roads more, why aren't they paying more money? And that's the other approach that many people are considering using, is where you pay your insurance is based upon the amount of miles you drive. And that's going to determine your insurance. And some people are saying, well, government could do that too, where they'll measure the amount of miles you drive, and that's the amount of tax you pay. Right now, I think we're paying a ton of tax. The problem isn't the shortfall in the tax dollars, the tax revenue. The problem is the management of said tax dollars. You've got these government bureaucracies in there that are wasting, irresponsibly spending the money, and they're not being held accountable or responsible. It's not a shortage of the money, it's how it's being managed. And Obama's out there doing his same old dire warning that more than 700,000 jobs could be at risk next year if Congress doesn't figure this out, and we need a solution right away. And again, just laying the blame at the congressional Republicans. I'm not sure that's the best approach that he should be going with, but it is the approach that he has elected to go with to handle this situation. Next is on this. I found this interesting. This is a video we're going to play, and it's on ER, and it's on emergency rooms, hospitals, and that they're the next big data collectors out there, aggregating the consumer data to build algorithms and get more involved in the patient's health. They'll be able to tell what you're eating, what you're purchasing, basically grabbing all this data when you're out there using your car and you're buying Snickers, you're buying cigarettes, and use that to basically compile the data, and figure out what your patterns that you're following in regards to health. So let's go to this is a person they call the resident. She does a great job, so let's go ahead and pay attention to her. She's with RT, which is Russian TV located, but this is the location here in the States. Let me get you guys. We'll do the split screen on this one, and
consumer data to create profiles on patients to identify people who might get sick so they can intervene before that happens. the Carolinas healthcare system, the biggest hospital chain in the Carolinas, is plugging data for 2 million people into algorithms to identify high-risk patients. And in Pennsylvania, the biggest healthcare system is already plugging in household and demographic data. So hospitals are now incorporating into their systems information like, did their patients buy cigarettes this week? How many candy bars did they buy? Did they cancel their gym membership? All of the little stuff we do that can be traced by our credit card transactions, online information, or public records are now starting to be fed into algorithms used by the healthcare industry to track aspects of our health. And if doctors see that we're gaining too much weight or smoking too much from all the data they're collecting, they can start calling us up to try to get us to adopt healthier behaviors. If they see you want to take a vacation someplace where the pollen count is too high and you have asthma, they might call you up to discourage you from traveling. If that sounds too outlandish to ever happen, make no mistake, it's already happening. In an interview with Bloomberg, one diabetes patient says she already gets calls from her insurance company who tries to discuss her daily habits with her. It's a practice that is bound to become more prevalent as our society becomes more and more data addicted. As Chief Clinical Officer for Analytics at Carolina's healthcare system, Michael Doolin, put it, data's already being used to get people to buy crap they don't need that isn't good for them, or for other scary applications like identifying dissent. So at least hospitals are looking to apply data collection for something good, keeping people healthy, right? But here's the thing. Under Obamacare, hospitals are already starting to get fined for having too many patients readmitted. It saves hospitals money to keep people out of their emergency rooms. In the ridiculous, sprawling bureaucracy that is the American healthcare system, data collection is about money, not about patient health. It's only a matter of time before hospitals can start turning people away because they're smokers, or charging a heart attack patient double because they ate a Snickers that week. It's just another dystopian application of big data in our society, and the implications are scary enough to make anyone sick. Tonight,
there you go, folks. That's the resident, and it is scary. You know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, they're just collecting that data, and they're going to make me healthier. They're going to contact me if they see that I'm eating too many Snicker bars." But do you want this intrusion into your life? Is it part of that thing where they keep on conditioning you to get used to all these intrusions, from the cameras to the license plate readers to the oh God, what's that one? The thing that the police are using to intercept your phone call. Scott, God, I did a report on it last week and I forgot the name of it. But you get the gist of it. Do you want them to be able to collect all this data? Unfortunately, we're becoming a society that's become accustomed to it, that's accepting it. And we shouldn't, folks. We shouldn't accept it. We should question it. We should ask, why do you need all this data? Do I need you to know that I'm eating 5 Snicker bars? No, I don't. So stay out of my business. That's my thoughts on it. All right, next we're going over to the this was just out of the Herald, and it's 50 years of the Civil Rights Act. And something, I was watching an interview with his niece, I think it was on Fox today. And one thing I knew Republicans were big in the civil rights. I wasn't sure at what level. And I found out that one of the major Republicans that pulled all the Democrats and Republicans together to get this legislation through so that Lyndon Johnson, who's a Democrat, could sign it, was a Republican. Back then, too, I didn't realize that most African Americans were Republican. They made the transition just around when Kennedy came into play. And she went into this whole conversation regarding that. And it was pretty interesting, pretty enlightening. So it's the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. And black leaders in the community reflected upon this victory, and which is occurring now. Many remain vigilant against losing some of the gains it represents, especially after the Supreme Court last year weakened civil rights legislation protecting minority voters. I don't know if I agree with that paragraph, but we'll go with it since the Herald has it in there. Johnson signed that sweeping Civil Rights Act back in July 2nd of 64, outlawing discrimination based upon race, sex, color, religion, and national origin. And the measures become emblematic of the of others passed in the 60s, including the Voting Rights Rights Act and started the long, slow process of dismantling the Jim Crow laws, which deeply segregated communities across the country, including Sarasota. So that's going on right now, the 50th year celebration of the passage of that act. And it's good. I don't know how this story is going to impact us. As you guys know, if you follow my program, last week Sarasota Airport announced that they're getting rid of the TSA. They are and they're not. They're getting rid of using the TSA, the government agency. But TSA gets to select the independent private company that they're going to go with, and all those employees have a chance to vie for the positions with that company. So you're still going to have the same philosophy, I think, the same approach. But basically, the TSA is about to up their fees again, folks, and will be adding an extra charge for travelers who are stuck on layovers. I don't know if Sarasota is going to up their fees. If they're leaving TSA, then I don't think they're going to. But that's a gray area there, and when's it going to occur and all that good stuff. The TSA recently unveiled this fee increase that will add a projected $16.9 billion, yes, billion, to their total budget over the next 10 years. And according to the government's own statistics, average domestic airfare adjusted for inflation has increased more than 6%, or nearly $382 in the past 4 years alone. Starting on July 21st, the TSA will more than double the mandatory fee that they charge for their involuntary screening process. So they're going to increase the amount of money to put me through the screening process, which I can't stand anyways. Having me take my shoes off, putting me through the radar scanner that's intrusive, that's dangerous to your health, treating you like crap, and they're going to charge us more for it. That's great. And there's not going to be any more caps. So exciting news there from the TSA. Gotta love those guys. Let's see, what else do we want to do here? I'm trying to narrow it down because I got a ton of things to discuss, but I want to discuss the ones that impact us here directly, and then I'll go into the other issues later down the road. This was an interesting story, and it's on Border Patrol. The whole immigration thing is scary, folks. It's a major concern. You should be concerned. How does it impact us here in Sarasota? A lot of them are coming over here. They're shipping them everywhere. They're basically coming across the border and they're shipping them out. A lot of these people, not really the ones from Mexico, but it's more the Central American ones, are coming in. They're saying, where do you have relatives? They're shipping them there, or they're shipping them to bases or holding areas. A few of them are coming across with diseases, and it's starting to get a little concerning. InfoWars had an exclusive interview with the vice president of Border Patrol in El Paso, and this guy said that drug cartels are taking advantage of the de facto amnesty that the U.S. is granting illegals, and they're smuggling in here or using the immigrants that are coming in as a distraction so that they can come in or they can bring in whatever illegal drugs or whatever they want across the border with little interaction with the Border Patrol because they're distracted with all the immigrants. And they're concerned about that. They're concerned about the sicknesses that a lot of them are bringing in. So we got a little video here. Let's see.
Exclusive interview that you'll find only here, premiering now on the InfoWars Nightly News.
My name is Stu Harris. I'm First Vice President with Local 1929 of the National Border Patrol Council. Right now, the biggest concern obviously is this Central American invasion that's happening right now. And not just the humanitarian aspect of it, because what we know is that the cartels control the smuggling routes. And it's the cartels that are pushing these people from Central America across the river, instead of taking them to a port of entry where if they turn themselves in at a port of entry, the end result is going to be the same. So it's the cartels pushing these groups across the river to tie up our agents. And meanwhile, our agents are tied up processing, feeding these people, changing diapers. And the drug cartels are running whoever they want across the border and other places. And who or what is coming in, we don't know. And we won't know until something bad happens.
That's scary stuff.
And that right now is the biggest concern that we have. And this has to be addressed. We want to make sure they're not carrying any infectious diseases or contagious diseases, so our agents aren't put in harm's way unnecessarily. Once that's done, obviously, medical evaluation if they need it. If they're asking for any kind of medical assistance, we'll provide what we can there. and then they're taken to a processing center where they either wait to be processed or they're sent to El Paso or Tucson, and they're run through the system, fingerprints, the whole 9 yards. They're issued a packet. They're given a notice to appear before a judge, and they're released. You know, a lot of what we're hearing in the media and other places is that, you know, the conditions in Central America, they're just horrible conditions. There's violence, there's gang violence, and that's true. And you know, that's a terrible, terrible way to have to live. But that's been going on for more than 10 years, okay? So for this invasion to start suddenly happening, something else had to change. And what changed was the fact that we were engaging in this catch and release program. And word spreads fast. And our agents are interviewing these people when they're being processed. And one of the things they ask them, so why come now? And the answer is 90% of the time, because you're going to give me a permiso or a permit. They know they're going to be processed and released, and they're free to go wherever they want to go in the United States, and the likelihood of them ever showing up as, you know, for their court date, slim to none. And, you know, even if they did show up for their court date, what we're going to start seeing is what we call the anchor babies, okay? Because these court dates are being set, from what I understand, so far down the road. These people are going to come here, they're going to settle in, some of them are going to have children. Those children are now United States citizen. How is the judge going to deport these people if they have a United States citizen as a child? He's not.
And that's from the union rep that handles the border patrols. And, you know, some of the stuff that stood out that's a little concerning there is what he said. You know, hey, look, you're getting a piece of paper. They're allowed to go into the States. The hearings are down the road. And most of these people aren't going to show up to these hearings, folks. Are you going to show up if you can be deported? No. You're going to stay out in the country because you know they're not really going to come after you. You have a baby. Next thing you know, you got one of the dreamers. Next thing you know, they can't be deported. The United States doesn't want to deport you because you got your baby here. And the story goes on. It should be concerning in terms of some of the possible illnesses they're bringing across. The cartel situation he mentioned, that should be concerning with the crime. Employment. You know, I covered employment yesterday's show, and or 2 days ago we were talking about immigrants. Well, someone said, "Oh, they just take the jobs Americans don't want," and I beg to differ. Many Americans will take that busing job. They'll take that wait job. They'll take mowing that lawn. I just had to get rid of my guy, and I think he's got illegals on him. But the guy, I'm like, get the heck out of here, and I told him not to go back to my property anymore. So it's concerning. We got to figure out what's going on. We got to come up with a better solution than what we're going through right now. Here's a story where they're bankrupting towns because these small towns along the border are trying to take care of these illegals, and they're running into a huge trouble financially. They mentioned this one town, Falfarias, and it's a small town in counties along that whole border are just drowning in debt due to the swarming of these illegals, and the federal government isn't coming in to help them out. They mentioned Brooks County, Texas, which is 75 miles north of the border. Autopsies of dead illegal aliens are rapidly draining his county's resources, and we're already meager after the oil and gas industry has left us alone. So that's another issue that many are worrying about. Or what about the military incursion the other day, folks, where the helicopter crossed into the United States area and fired on us? You know, again, that was a Mexican military helicopter. It flew into the U.S., shot at Border Patrol agents. It happened early in the morning. 2 shots were fired from the helicopter. There were no injuries or damages, and the Mexican authorities apologized profusely. But this is happening a lot. More than 500 armed troops, Mexican troops or police, have crossed the border and entered into the United States in the last 10 years alone, folks. So, again, you just can't, you know, the president's logic is, well, because all these people are coming here, we've got to grant amnesty and that'll make it all go away. No, that'll make it just even worse, folks. It'll just make it worse. So, one thing I did touch on, and I didn't have enough time the other day, was that it's Ramadan had started back up. I think it was on Saturday or something like that. And this is a time when Muslims in the world fast for a month or break.
Muslims around the world are celebrating the arrival of the whole.
And we got a video to go along with it, but you know, that whole Muslim situation is really getting tricky. You have ISIS, who has threatened to blow up that the Mecca site, and they want everybody. They're basically calling all extremists over to Iraq, Syria, and they want to make that just one big old happy country there. So let's take a listen to this on fasting and the Muslim month. And hold on one second, let me get you that screen. And we're going.
Holy month of Ramadan. Sunday has been announced as the first day of the fasting month in many Muslim and non-Muslim countries. All able-bodied believers abstain from eating and drinking, as well as other worldly pleasures from dawn to dusk. They also strive to be more pious throughout the holy month. Ramadan, the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, also marks the time when the first verses of the Quran, Islam's holy book, were revealed to Prophet Muhammad. The 30-day fasting period will end with Eid al-Fitr, which is the feast of fast breaking.
All right, so there you go, educating you guys a little bit on Ramadan. And it's happening right now. Now I can go into my other stuff that I wanted to cover. All right, how about this, folks? The global meltdown. A lot of you have to be worried about the economy. A lot of people were predicting that the stock market would make it up to the highs that you're seeing now in the 17s, but that they'll see a huge, significant drop. They're worried about China and the huge bubble they're creating over there with a lot of their housing bubble and a lot of the different financial issues over there. But this is the 18th signs that global economic crisis is accelerating. And this is as we enter into the second half of 2014. And a lot of people feel that there's perilous times ahead. I think Donald Trump was just on the TV saying that the other day. And they point to some issues that have been out there. And one is the Bank of International Settlements has issued a new report which warns that dangerous new asset bubbles are forming, which could potentially lead to another major financial crisis. They're not alone, people. You're hearing a lot of people say that lately. A lot of people. I listen before I come on the air. I listen every once in a while to Phil's gang. They're basically saying the same thing. They're based out of Sarasota. You listen, if you read a lot and you look at the different people that are out there instead of following mainstream media, a lot of individuals are starting to get concerned. Argentina has missed a $539 million debt payment and is on the verge of its second major debt default in 13 years. Bulgaria is desperately trying to calm down a massive run on their banks that threatens to spiral out of control. Household loans in the Eurozone have declined at the fastest rate ever recorded. And I can tell you over there in Europe, guys, it is not good. I have family there and it has gotten bad. The number of unemployed job seekers in France has just soared. Another brand new record high has been reached. The economies all over Europe are either showing no growth or are shrinking. A few days ago, it was reported that consumer prices in Japan are rising at the fastest pace in 32 years. Household expenditures in Japan are down 8%, so they're not spending the money. U.S. companies are drowning in massive amounts of debt, but the corporate debt bubble in China is so bad that the amount of corporate debt in China has actually now surpassed the amount of corporate debt in the United States. A Chinese auditor is warning that up to $80 billion worth of loans in China are backed by falsified gold transactions. And I tell you, their financial system's so corrupt there, folks. The unemployment rate in Greece is currently sitting at 26.7, with the youth at 56.8. 67.5% of the people that are unemployed in Greece have been unemployed for over a year. Unemployment in the Eurozone is at 11.8. European Central Bank is so desperate to get money moving through the system that it's actually introduced negative interest rates. The IMF is projecting that there's a 25% chance the Eurozone will slip into deflation by the end of next year. I heard that on the show today, too, that a lot of people are believing deflation is on the horizon. The World Bank is warning that now is the time to prepare for the next crisis. Economic conflict between the U.S. and Russia. How about the oil situation over in Iran, Iraq? Of course, the U.S. economy is struggling right now. the GDP shrank 2.9, I think, last in the revised number that they just put out. So there's a lot of signs out there, folks. And if you listen to anybody but major media, a lot of them are saying, hey, we're concerned. And, you know, a lot of these guys have been dead accurate in the past. I forget the guy's name that was on the show today, but this guy's pretty much predicted a lot of the economic crises that we've come into in the past. He predicted about a year ago that we would see highs in the stock market where we're at now, and then a pullback down to 6. So you have, how's this impact us? You think times are tough now, folks. If we go into this global crisis that the Donald Trumps of the world, the Phil's gang, and all these other people are saying or believing we're going to go into, you should be concerned. It's only going to get that much worse, folks. Trust me. It's if we run in, a lot of people are saying that it'll be just as bad as the Great Depression in the 30s. So do what you will, prepare. You just got to be mindful of that, folks. Mindful of it. The government a lot of times will come on and say, oh, the economy's great, the economy's great. Yet we see GDP in the negatives yet a couple of weeks ago. Unemployment's great. That's not a true unemployment number. A lot of people believe the true unemployment number is up around 14%, folks. The printing of money like crazy. I could go on and on, folks. There's a lot of things, and you just got to look at the different signs that are out there. Now we are going to give my voice a break. You know, one of the beauties of going when I do get syndicated on a radio show is I get breaks. And I didn't realize how many breaks. When you're doing a 2-hour show, you're only talking for an hour and 20 minutes. You get breaks all the time, which would be great. It's very difficult to go for 2 straight hours talking without a break. Trust me on it. So we're going to cover, this is the road rant that I put out today. I've actually done 2 today. One I'm putting out tomorrow. This one I put out earlier today. Tomorrow's I think is on the I think it was titled Welfare, the EBT Spigot, and that can't get turned off. This road rant here is on the minimum wage question. So let's go ahead and listen to that. Hold on, let me get you guys set up real quick. We're going to and enjoy it. Hey everybody, this is Francesco Abbruzzino with another road rant. And what am I ranting about today? Minimum wage and the quagmire or issue associated with it. I mean, is there anyone out there working for a living who would not like to make more money at his or her present job? Of course not, folks. Everyone would like to earn more money. Doesn't it just sound like a nice thing to do, though? Poor people are struggling to earn a living by working minimum wage jobs, so why not help them improve their life by raising the minimum wage? But as the economists say, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And raising minimum wage comes with some serious costs, folks. So, hold on to your wallets. President Obama's threatening to use his pen once again, since Congress will not do what he wants or is demanding. He wants a significant increase in the minimum wage, and he wants it now, damn it. Obama is never so generous as when it's spending someone else's money. So this raise is going to cost us a bundle, folks. A bundle. Obamanomics sees money as if it were something created out of nowhere, found from the money tree in his backyard. Washington mandates higher wages, and the results will be magical, like Disney. It will help families, right? It will give businesses a lot more customers with more money to spend, right? What a glorious world it will be. Oh, and it most certainly will not involve any new bureaucratic programs. Wow! Obama makes it seem like there's no downside to this. Let's go for it. But hold on, folks. People like myself that actually run a business and understand the proposed hike represents a 39% increase in payroll costs may not agree. Even the nonpartisan CBO office has warned that this could lead to losing 500,000 jobs. You see, folks, employers' profits do not magically go up when their labor costs are increased. If they want to stay in business, they must try to pass some of the higher costs onto consumers and or reduce their costs elsewhere by laying off employees, cutting hours, or foregoing future hiring and expansion. Obama has been quick to dispatch a team of economists to dispute the job loss numbers. Surprisingly, they really do believe and buy into the fact that the professional literatures have moved towards thinking the employment effects will be minimal. However, I'm here to tell you folks, it's a different story for those at the bottom of the income ladder, especially teenagers trying to land their first job. Aside from the obvious benefit, the people making, to people making $7.25 an hour, those already making around $10 an hour might also see an increase in the pressure to keep their salaries from the minimum rate, and will have to increase them. In truth, most people who earn minimum wage are teenagers and college students new to the labor market, or those looking to earn some extra spending money and they're not poor. Heads of the households trying to support their families, some of them are at minimum wage. Also, most receive raises after working a short time, or they come into positions already set above minimum wage. Here's the deal though. At the same time, these increases will also cause employers to lay off a low-wage worker or hire fewer of them and demand more productivity so that the business can make ends meet. Like I said, the nonpartisan analyst is expecting at a minimum a loss of 500,000 jobs. And they've noted that this is just an educated guess, folks, and the true number could be up in the millions. Do you think a Big Mac price will remain the same? No, it will not. Prices will rise as a result of minimum wage increase, and that's according to the CBO again, folks. That increase in price would raise federal transfer payments because some of those payments, such as Social Security, are automatically indexed to changes in the price levels. If raising the minimum wage is such a great idea as Obama and his supporters claim, why have the past 4 minimum wage increases in recent years in Illinois left them with the 3rd highest unemployment rate in America? In a sensible, market-driven economy, jobs must pay what the market determines they are worth. Wages must not be based on the whims of politicians seeking to curry favor with one interest group or another. When wages are artificially manipulated, jobs losses are inevitable, folks, and they will follow. The minimum wage is where the fantasies of good government, central planning devotees run headlong into harsh economic reality. No minimum wage job has ever provided a cushy life to a worker who holds one. No, it hasn't. Nor will it ever, regardless of where the wage level is set. A life on Easy Street is not the purpose of minimum wage, folks. Its function is set to get an unskilled, untrained person a basic job that offers a chance to learn skills and good work practices that, combined with modicum of ambition, will move the workers on to bigger and better things. The employer, in return, gets some basic work done at the cost that keeps the prices competitive with China and India products. That's the way the economics works, folks. Tinkering with the system to serve some political go is at best unhelpful and at worst destructive. This has been Francesco Abbruzzino. Alright, there you have it, folks. That was my rogue rant from today. Well, my first one. The second one is actually on YouTube, but it's private. I'm going to make it public probably after this show, and then you guys can go to it and check it out. It's on that whole EBT and how it's being abused. It seems like ever since they've gone to a credit card format of EBT, or where you could just plug it into an ATM, it's been being abused more and more, which is killing a great program. It's killing it for the people that really aren't cheating the system. People that really need it, and they're using it for the purposes it's there for. Unfortunately, these guys that are out there, these little shysters, and they're using it like this, and it's going to end up killing that program. Let's see, the smart streetlights. This is that intrusion again, folks. This is in Chicago, but I've heard this story before. It's not the first time it's come out. And this is on smart streetlights that track everything we do. Okay, and we're going to play a video with it in a second. And basically, these lights, like I said, they track everything, and they're on the horizon. And this is according to major media, CBS News report, which they touted it as an environmental benefit of the new LED system. I don't know. since I've started doing this show, I've learned that major media is the propaganda mouthpiece for whichever government, Republican, Democrat, are in office. They're no different than Goebbels with Hitler being his propaganda piece. They put out what the government or what their superiors want put out, and they're all working for the same agenda. I mean, come on, folks. They have this. It's not this product, but another guy came out and said, "Look, with these streetlights, we can hear your every conversation. We can tape everything." And again, it's all part of that conditioning you to accept it. The lights are being marketed as a fantastic energy-saving device because they have motion sensors which detect foot traffic, allowing them to switch on and off when required. CBS News report showcased this as smart lights action in New York and in their underground parking, and they made it look like it was the greatest invention to come in years. It's a seamless grid, a smart lights network with surveillance cameras all over the place. They provide some security, which is good, but they also can track you. And that's the quandrum we're in. You got something that can possibly help you. You got the cameras there and that, but then you don't want that intrusion into your life. And it seems like every day, every time I turn around, more and more and more, it's being intruded upon. Like I said earlier, how many of you guys out there know that there's license plate readers that can read your license? They'll read like 100 license plates within 10 seconds. How about the Stingray? Listening to your phone calls, what the police are now using to get warrants. You got the street lights now that can record your data, record your moves, record your conversations, and you don't know they're there. They look like normal street lights to you. So let's go ahead and we're going to play this video in 1 second. Let me get you guys to the right screen here. And let's YouTube this thing. And here we go.
More people and places are switching to energy-saving LED bulbs. Now, a California company is turning those cutting-edge lights into networks. They can send and receive data, but as Bill Whitaker shows us, technology creating new opportunities also raises privacy concerns.
You bet.
Should you find yourself in Terminal B at Newark Airport, look up. Those aren't just new lights, they're smart lights, a sophisticated array of LED fixtures with built-in sensors and cameras connected over a wireless network.
All right, so there you have it, folks. You have it in there. You've seen the lights. You can't tell that they're cameras, motion sensors, that they can pick up your voice. You can't tell any of that stuff. Now, granted, this is an airport, and the expectation is that you're being filmed, you're being observed, especially in the society we live in now with the government making it seem like they got to watch and monitor every move, otherwise we're in trouble, yet they let all the illegals flow across the border without any problem, which makes no sense. I was listening to a news guy, a talk show guy this morning. He's like, I was coming back from the Caribbean. They're putting me through body scanners, customs. They're asking me all these questions. They're making it so difficult to come back in. I'm like, I look over at Texas, and they're just walking across the border without any problem. Yet I'm an American citizen, and I got to go through all this rigmarole. Well, anyways, you see the lights there, so let's go ahead and continue.
They monitor security, the flow of foot traffic.
Newark's primarily interested in energy savings.
Hugh Martin is president of Sensity, the Silicon Valley company that developed the smart lights at Newark and this parking garage in San Jose.
So these lights, they sense that we're walking?
Yeah, there's a motion sensor in each individual light.
What does this do as far as energy?
This week we saved about $3,500 or over $182,000 a year in energy saved just from this.
Across the globe, cities are phasing out old energy-wasting incandescent and sodium bulbs and replacing them with LEDs, which can act as a power hub that can be tailored for high-tech add-ons. That's the smart part. They're also 90% more efficient, longer lasting, and much brighter.
Whoa, that is bright.
There are about 4 billion outside lights in the world today. Imagine all these lights connected in one global network.
This is one of just a few places in the country where a smart light network has been installed. This Silicon Valley building uses it primarily for security. And here's how it works. There are 40 lampposts in this lot holding 83 LED lights connected to 7 cameras in a seamless grid that is tracking and recording my every move.
So we do use the license plate recognition, and we also can detect people.
Kevin Kirk is chief engineer for the Shorenstein Company, which owns this building. The company plans to install smart lights at their properties across the country.
Everything goes up into the cloud, so we can access everything from anywhere. The future is limitless for this technology.
The smart light.
He said right there that everything goes up in the cloud, and that's another huge concern. Like these FPL smart boxes where they'll charge you they increase your bill if you don't take it on. And it's already been proven, it's out there, it's documented, it's on record where that data, the FPL smart boxes, can download and basically know when you went to bed. They know when your TVs are turned on and all that good stuff, and that's what they're designed to do. Now, that goes out into some hub, just like this goes out to a cloud. How many of these clouds can be hacked? This guy might say, oh, it'll never happen, but a lot of stores, retail stores, the federal government, a lot of entities say they can't be hacked, and they're hackable, folks. So your data is just sitting out there, and who knows? How about the sharing? NSA comes in and wants data from Facebook, from Google, from any entity, and right away it's given to them. All the phone companies, right away it's given to them. So they know that they can go to this cloud, they can grab your data and track your every move. Big brother in the making. Here we go.
Network has the ability to spot an unattended bag at an airport and alert security, show drivers to empty parking spaces, alert shoppers of sales as they walk past retailers. Existing LED lights can be retrofitted with sensors to monitor pollution, measure snowfall, sniff out a dirty bomb before it can spew radiation. There's no end to the kind of information you could gather.
Yep.
And therein lies the problem. In the future, the smart network could track every place we go, everything we buy, everything we do all the time.
You see how this plays into that whole hospital field, the resident.
Wouldn't at least the parents of kids at a school feel better if they knew that there was a analytic that looked for objects that could be guns on people that were coming into the school?
And once again,
wouldn't that be a good thing?
They're using that whole safety thing to get you concerned, get you alarmed enough so that you'll go ahead and give up more of your freedoms and go with this whole issue that takes away your privacy. I mean, you heard them right there. When you want to see if someone has a gun coming into your school, they're trying to use that fear basis to get people to buy into it and condition you to take more and more of this this privacy.
We're all both benefiting and at risk from this.
Dr. Linton Wells with the National Defense University in Washington says technology is evolving faster than our policies to control it.
So I think the onus has to...
See another key word there. Technology is advancing way too fast than we're able to control it. So they're basically out there saying, hey, look, we can't control this. It's evolving way too fast. Yet you got to accept it. Don't worry about the fact that we can't control it.
Be on the citizen. It's your information that's at risk out there.
Is the technology getting ahead of us?
If we don't have the technology, we won't confront the issues and we won't figure out the right way.
All right, so you need that technology to confront the issues and do the right way. That guy's so full of crap. And he sits there with that smug little look on his face. I'm not buying what he's selling. you guys didn't hear any of that. I clicked the wrong key. That tells me it's time to take a break. I'm having, from a technical end, I'm just having a bad day. For some reason, I clicked the wrong button and sent you guys over to that music. So I don't even know if anyone's here. I was talking about student loans and the increases in them. We'll just cover it tomorrow. We'll call it a day right now. This has been, because from technical aspect, I've had nothing but issues today. It might be this major headache that I have right now. So this has been Francesco Abbruzzino with live unedited talk and news show, and I will see you tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel.